Welcome to the show, multi-platinum music producer James Jae-E Earley, with over 50 million records sold to your credit as a multi-instrumentalist, producer and songwriter. You've produced artists such as MC Hammer, vocal group En Vogue, David Bowie and rapper E40, among others. You've worked for every major label in the industry and have been personally selected for projects for industry moguls Jimmy Iovine and Sylvester Stallone, among others. There's so much to talk about with you, James. Thank you so much for joining us, and please do tell us more.
Thank you, gentlemen, for having me. Well, I grew up in this industry, actually. From the time that I was about 22 years old, I met Felton Pilot of the group Confunction, and he was working in the Bay Area at a studio called Fantasy Studios in Berkeley, and also had a studio in his house. And this was way before Pro Tools. And so I was a client of his. I came to him as a singer-songwriter to record some material. And he, at that time, had the studio mostly in his home. And we were working on some stuff. And he really admired the fact that I really knew technology as a young person. I think he was impressed that I really knew my way around electronic equipment. But at the same time, I was a real musician, and he was excited about that. I could sing a little bit. And when he decided to move his studio from his house to an actual brick and mortar location across town, he decided to hire me to run the studio for him at night. And when he would hire me for his studio at night, I was excited, but I had to tell him I wasn't an engineer yet. And I thought by telling him that, I think he knew that, but my naivete believed that he didn't. But anyway, I told him, Felton, I would love to do it, but I can't run any of this equipment like you do.
Yeah.
And I knew he was going to say, oh, I got to have somebody that really understands this equipment and his experience. Well, he just got quiet and he smiled and he said, oh, you don't know how to run this stuff? Well, then I'll teach you. And I heard the angels sing at that moment.
There you go. God bless.
Yeah, he took me under his wing and, he taught me everything about producing records, making records. I'd recorded songs before, and Skyler, I know you understand this. I'd recorded quite a few songs before, but the difference between recording a song and making a record, Skyler, is a big difference. And Felton taught me that, how to make a song sound like a hit record.
Right.
And once I knew how to do that, the sky was the limit for me.
Yeah, you went from demo to records.
Yes. And then so we, long story short, we wound up linking up with a cat named Stanley Burrell, who was a local gospel rapper that wanted to become more secular and do dance music. And so he came to our studio and we made music for him. And at that time also announced that his new rap name was going to be MC Hammer. And so we recorded his first couple of albums that he ever did. And those recordings are what got him the deal with Capitol Records, his major deal. He shopped that to Capitol Records and he got a major deal. And once that happened, everything really took off for all of us. So really, really quickly, Hammer became a superstar. And to his credit, he actually came back and got Felton and I and took us on the road with him. Instead of just going out and doing his own thing, he actually came back and told us to close the studio and come with him out on the road, which is what we did.
Yeah.
So we were his sound engineers and musicians on the road, and and everything really took off at that point because he became a superstar, and we were there along for the ride. We got to meet all the industry executives and work with them, and our lives changed at that point. Yeah.
Listen, tell me, do you write lyrical content?
I do. When I met Felton, again, as a youngster, I was a singer-songwriter already. Working with Felton in the studio was great for me because it was like going to a major university to learn how to make hit records, which even now, I don't think they have a school that teaches you how to make hit records like that, especially when you're working with hit makers that are showing you how to do it. Exactly. Felton and many others that I could name. And so we had to do everything. Felton taught me the art of, and the other mentors that I have taught me the art of get it done no matter what. So somebody would come to the studio and sometimes they would just be a singer themselves and they didn't have any idea how to make a hit record, but they knew they wanted one. So they would pay us to create a hit song for them. And in many cases, we would do it right there in front of them, literally write the lyrics, show them how to sing it, and record it all in one day. And we just got really fast and really good and efficient at that. And it was great. I love that I got put that kind of pressure got put on me. So yeah, I know how to write songs and I know how to write them very fast.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Now, music for global change, what we're doing here is a movement, right?
Mhm.
So we're writing songs that are positive,
Mhm.
and they're not about you. They're about healing, education, and solving problems with amazing notes. Same 12 notes everybody else use in every genre, right? But I tell people all the time, if you look at the artists that started writing social conscious music in the middle of their career, this took them to another level, such as Marvin Gaye,
Mhm.
John Lennon, you know what I mean? Nina Simone, Bob Marley. There was a lot of them, man, back in the, in the day it was right, but there was no platform for it. So, and I congratulate them. Like, man, at least you tried, but nobody put it all together. So what we're trying to do is inspire people to start writing some positive tunes, right?
No, absolutely. That's wonderful. And it's all about, I mean, everyone loves, people pay way more attention to lyrics than most people assume.
Yeah.
Even consciously, you're taking in that information, even if you don't know it, just by hearing it. And so it's important. You mentioned Curtis May. You mentioned Marvin Gaye and others, and I was going to mention Curtis Mayfield. He's another person that changed it with his
You
lyric
you
content.
know you know what? You know what?
Mhm.
I sang on Curtis Mayfield's last record.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Uh
I'm
me
surprised.
me
You
and
were there.
Larry and Tony Lindsay. Larry, me and Clay Tobin, and
Right.
we sang the backgrounds on like 4 or 5 tunes on Curtis Mayfield's last record, man.
I know it sounded great too.
But you're right. He wrote about the struggle.
But I meant that also that firepower that he had with you and Clay Tobin and Larry. And I mean, you guys are all great. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we did it for a long time, just create backgrounds around tunes and stuff like that. Tom?
You've worked for so many of the major record labels in the industry. Do you feel that the fact that you moved around amongst these labels sort of benefited you from, you learned almost different skill sets and different things from each one, or was there kind of any other reason why you kind of moved between the labels?
Well, no, it was just that the labels are a big network, and many of the executives move around from label
Hmm.
to label anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
And also, as you know, a lot of labels have now merged, and they were merging even then. So, it just in terms of that, it's just literally the music industry circle. And if somebody liked what you were doing at one label, then the next label wanted to hire you for something. And I was happy to do it, and I'm always
Sure.
happy to do it even now because they recognize the talent and they also see that it's successful,
Yeah.
and they bring you along because they want you to do something for them.
Cool.
So I really enjoyed that. But in terms of the sounds, usually the labels, I mean, after a while, they just wanted a hit record.
Yeah.
And,
That's
you're
what I'm
happy to do it.
proposing. Yeah.
Happy to do it. Mhm.
Cool.
How many social conscious songs have you written?
I've written a few. It just depends. Sometimes as you know, we were talking about the industry, they don't necessarily want you to do that, but we want to do it. So
Hmm.
yeah, I've always been into it. I mean, Public Enemy, in terms of the hip hop generation, brought it back to the fore. A lot of the East Coast rappers were into social conscious music
Yeah.
from a hip hop standpoint. So I've been along for that ride as well. It just depends on who the artist I'm working with and the vibe that they're into at the time. You
Hmm.
know
Right.
what I mean? Sometimes they just want to dance hit. Sometimes they of course want a song about love. We've been doing that. But every now and again you got to write about what's going on around you.
Hmm.
And that is an important message that people want to hear,
See,
globally.
see, I want to grow it from every now and then. I want to
Mhm.
grow it from that. You said the same thing. A lot of people come on the show. They go, I've written a few, and I understand why, because there's no industry for it. You know what I mean? But we have to create our own industry.
We do.
There's
We do.
8 billion people on the planet, right? You don't
Yeah.
need all of them. You just need groups of people, you know. and going after that's why, man. Right. Well, there's been 192 million social conscious songs published, right? 192 million. That means there's a lot of people like yourself that wrote three or four of them or whatever, right? But I want to start doing concerts with people writing positive music.
Yeah. It's important because I mean, we could talk about it, guys, but what happens is, as you know, the media, and I'm speaking generally, but the truth is not always being told in the news or in the media. A lot of times these social conscious records that you're speaking of are how the truth and the true news gets out to the world. Certain things are happening around the world that people wouldn't know about unless they heard about it in a song or an artist. You mentioned Bob Marley, again, Curtis Mayfield, and really in this industry here in America, the big one was Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On." I mean, it literally changed the game, and Marvin had to physically fight Berry Gordy to even record that album.
How about that? How about that? Look at what you just said.
And I want you to be a crooner. And Barry was, and Marvin was like, no, my brother just came back from Vietnam War, and he told me some things that he saw. And of course, Marvin sees everything that's going on in the street, so he was just like, this is going to be my new record. And they fist fought because they brothers, they were brothers-in-law. It's a family thing, but they actually closed the door and went to town. And I guess Marvin won because he got what's going out. Yeah.
The crazy thing is, what I love is about what he said to Berry Gordy. He had all them women going crazy, and them dance songs he was doing and love songs.
Mm-hmm.
And then Berry go, what you gonna do now? He said, man, I'm sick of this war, man. I got to tell people what's going on. That's where that title came from.
Right. What's going on? That's right. Mm-hmm.
And from there, and the most beautiful part of that record was all the segues. It never stopped at the end of the song, right? Mm-hmm. He created some music in between to bring you into the other song. Mm-hmm. They Stevie and those guys doing stuff like that too, man. But Tom,
to your point, James, that you raised slightly earlier, do you find it particularly difficult for an artist to actually do socially conscious music if you feel the record label wants a certain thing from you? Do you feel there's a fight that an artist still at this point has to have to say, no, I really want to produce this. I know you want love songs, or what? Do you think that's still going on, that kind of battle between artists and labels?
Yeah, I think it does happen. And that's the whole point of being an artist. You want to find a label that supports you, so that you can do what your thing and know that they're going to be behind you on it. Again, we just talked about Marvin Gaye's dilemma with, of all labels, Motown and Berry Gordy, the biggest ever at that time. So you want to have a label that's going to support what you're doing so you can get the message out, so you can tell your story. And it's very important.
But it's like you were saying, Barry, he wanted to fight with him. Why you want to do this? We making money, the women going crazy, and why you want to change up on us like that? Do you know that record is now over 50 years old, and it's outsold all the love songs that he was ever on before?
Yeah, and if you think about it, if you've listened, and I know you have, when I say you, I mean everyone. If you listen to the lyrics of What's Going On's album, nothing has changed. It's exactly the same. The words absolutely apply to what is happening now in the world. Yeah.
When he said fish full of mercury, he was talking about the environment. Mm-hmm. I believe he was a prophet, because if you listen to those lyrics, man, there's no way. If you didn't listen to lyrics before, they sucked you right in, and you can see what he was talking about, right? I love lyrics that you can see,
Right. No, it's important. I mean, and then of course we're talking about Marvin, but then there was Tupac telling his story. And we know he had a rough side to him as well, but Dear Mother, was a phenomenal song, and that was a social conscious story. I think he had a song about a young lady having a teenager having a child. I think Brenda had a baby or something like that was the name of the song. But he was telling these stories so that he could get the message out there. To love yourself, to believe in yourself, and don't get caught up with the pressures of society. We have to love who we are as a people. And people have to be reminded of that. And if they're not, then they could lose themselves. And people now, as you know, they need it now more than ever. The world,
now more than ever.
The world is changing, and the world's probably been changing for quite a while now. But with technology and everything, it's rapidly changing. And yeah, people need a human word, not a computer. They need that humanity, and AI is not going to give them that. I think we still
exactly
have to write these words and tell these stories in a human way where people can truly connect to it.
You have to change it. You can change it with music because music is the #1 language on the planet.
Absolutely. And you're right. I mean, sometimes people can feel what's being said, even if they don't understand the words.
How about that?
The music and the melody is right. And you know what I'm saying, Skyler. If it's right, they feel it even if they don't yet understand what the words are saying. And that's a big part of it too. And that's really where, once again, the real musicianship comes into play. I don't want this to turn into an AI conversation, but I mean, that is a concern for us musicians today. Real music, real lyrics, real social conscious music. I don't think a computer can do that yet.
I have to remind these kids all the time, there was music here before computers, right? 330 million Americans. There's 960 million Europeans.
Wow.
So you can keep America. Give me $1 from 960 million people, bro.
Well, what you're saying, though, is true. That it's a big world, and people, unless you've traveled the world, you don't know that. I heard the comedian Bill Burr was talking the other day, and he was saying something that was significant to that effect, which is, unless you travel the world, you don't know. We were up to a point, if you only been in America, he was speaking about his upbringing, and I can agree. He said that you don't know that people are pretty much the same everywhere, pretty much in general. We want love. We love our children. We want our families to do well. We want to make sure our bills are paid. He said it's like that in other countries around the world too. But we're made that everybody's different, but everybody's the same.
That's right.
At heart, at their core. And I think the music is certainly what ties it together. And I could say something else too about that, Skyler, is that, and Tom, I want you to know this too. What happens with this music thing, I've noticed, is that it brings even strangers together. Yeah. It brings together people that don't even like each other. When the music is playing, suddenly enemies are forgetting about being enemies, and they're just having a good time listening to what's going on. It's the funniest thing.
Yeah.
So music, I think, is the glue. I believe music can save the world if it's allowed to.
That's the name of a song I wrote with Eric Daniels. That's going to be the theme song for Africa Food, right? For the man, we're about to feed a lot of people in Africa, man. We're going after the farmers and have them teach young people how to farm. And man, how about that? Now you ain't waiting on the government no more. We can feed ourselves.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
It's fantastic to have you on the show, James. I just wanted to see if you can tell us anything you've got on the burner at the moment, any new releases, anything that's happening right now for you?
Well, I'm working on some new material with my wife, Ariel Marin. She sings like an angel. We do a Sade tribute show here, which we're going to take around the world once we get to traveling. But she also has some wonderful original material. So we're working on her album right now, and I'm really excited about that. She's a beautiful singer and has a wonderful voice. That's how we met. She needed a producer. She certainly found one, and her music is great. She's got her original songs kind of have a Sade vibe to them, but it's also got her own thing. So I'm really excited about that. Nice. And I'm still just working with local talent. All the groups that I worked with mostly started out local anyway. En Vogue, they're from Oakland. Hammer's from Oakland. E40's from Vallejo. So, I mean, a lot of the talent I started off working with, they were unknown and just Bay Area talent. And then they got famous. And and then became world famous. So
Yeah.
most of the artists I work with are from here, but I'm continuing to do stuff anyway, sir.
That's nice.
I love it. I love what you're doing. I love the mission, and I love to be a part of it.
Thanks for coming on the show, man. Blessings, and
Thanks, James.
bless you for the privilege of your time today, man.
Skyler, thank you for having me. And again, Tom, I recognize you as being wonderful as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you
both
very
of
much.
Save the world. Music can save the world. If we all get together, music can save the world. Yeah. Music can save the world. Music can save the world. If we all come together, music can save the world. There's an urgency facing our humanity.
Thank you so much for watching. To stay up to date, please click subscribe and hit the bell. You can also join our group on Facebook and find us on LinkedIn and Instagram.